going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Sav Show. My name is Savilian, and I'm still hyped up after UFC 300. What an crazy, incredible card. A crazy, incredible card. And I would like to say on this show that it may have thrown up, actually no, it definitely threw up the greatest sporting moment that I've ever seen, okay? Hands down, the craziest, wildest shit that I have ever seen. Now, I've watched a lot of sport. I've seen some crazy shit in my time. But that moment, that Max Holloway knockout of Justin Gaethje for the BMF belt is the craziest shit I've ever seen. And I'm going to break down why. Okay, so now we all wandered in there, high on expectations, all the storylines that have been broken, all the conversations that went down, is this going to be big enough for UFC 300? Who's the headliner going to be? Pereira versus Hill, really? Is that it? BMF, Justin Gaethje versus Holloway, really? Is that it? Zhang Wei Li versus Yao Zhanan, really? Is that it? Like, every single time that a fight would come out, it felt like it was not enough, and I would see commentary from a lot of the MMA community saying, really, is that it? Surely we need more. Surely we need bigger. Surely we need better. There was questions about Izzy versus DDP. There was questions about will Chandler be back in time? Conor be back in time to fight Chandler. Who knew? There was a lot of stuff up in the air, and I think the UFC kind of might have messed up the scheduling a little bit in the months leading up to UFC 300 fights getting booked, because it meant that some of the ones that they probably would have wanted, like the heavyweight, the heavyweight belt, or the lightweight belt, stuff like that. Some of the belts that they would have wanted at UFC 300 weren't available. Anyway. So we got what we got, and what we got was pretty bloody good. I mean, I was, I'm not a big enough fan. Like I am a big enough fan now, but I haven't been around the sport long enough to be like, oh, that's not enough, or that, I need more than that. I was going to be happy with whatever, to be honest, because I'm like, it's like, yeah, it's UFC 300, but it's just another number, homie. Like, it's all good. We'll make 400 bigger. I don't know. I never saw an issue with. I guess I'm just grateful for whatever I get to see. I'm just happy with, just watching dope fights and seeing people, achieve the greatest levels of excellency in this sport. So I was going to be happy with whatever. Turns out it ended up being a lot better than whatever. From the very first fight, Davison Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt, it was just nonstop bangers. It was like hectic fight after hectic fight after hectic fight after hectic fight, and great storylines, great moments, great characters, walkouts, knockouts, brawls, battles. It just had it all. It had it all from start to finish, and it was perfect, And I think Ariel Helwani in his assessment post UFC 300 basically was like, that was perfect, 11 out of 10. That guy's been around the sport for a long time, and obviously he's had beef with UFC, or specifically Dana White, for a long time. But for him to just come out and be like, yeah, 11 out of 10, that was perfect. Kind of indicates just how perfect it was. And, anyone who's a fight fan, I'm just a fan of martial arts first. I'm not a fan of like any particular fighter or like organization. Obviously, UFC is the main one, and mixed martial arts is the main one. But like, I'm just a fan of martial arts, and I enjoy watching martial arts. UFC just happened to be the one that's easiest to watch most of the time. So, I was just keen for all of it to go down. I was keen to see all the storylines, the headlines, the moments, the characters. I was keen to just see it all, take it all in, embrace it for what it is. Just be happy with what you got. And it turned out I was given a lot more than I was expecting. So let's talk about this Holloway moment. So building up to the moment, there was the scene was set, right? Holloway versus Gaethje gets announced as the BMF belt. Now, a lot of people at the time was coming out and saying, Holloway, last time he went up a weight class, kind of got, beat up a little bit or didn't look great. And, probably, will he be able to come up and do it properly this time? So there was some skepticism out there. Holloway didn't really address it until the week of the fight. And he was like, I've heard everything that everyone has to say, and I'm just going to tell you all right now that I'll show you on Saturday night or whatever it is. And that's all you really can say. You can't take the criticism seriously because, like, at the end of the day, people got to make their news headlines. They got to make their YouTube videos and stuff like that. And people are just going to talk. So Holloway said what he had to say, and he was like, look, we'll see. And fuck, did we see? You know what I'm saying? So there was questioning of him leading up to the event, and people saying Justin Gaethje is such a deadly fighter, and anyone who Gaethje fights, they never look the same again, and so much power, and all this stuff, and all of that shit is true. Don't get me wrong, but I think Holloway never really bought into it too much. Now these two guys had a hell of a lot of respect for each other coming into this fight, and as we saw post-fight and up until now, there's just been so much respect shared after it. And, of course, why not? Because you've just shared this insane moment with this individual, which will be cemented in fighting folklore for the rest of time, basically. It was just insane. So anyway, that was kind of setting the scene leading up to it. Gaethje, powerful, strong, deadly. Holloway, can he go up a weight level and actually mix it up and actually have the power to put away Gaethje? So there was that stuff that was up in the air, and I'm sure Holloway would have heard and seen the majority of it. So that was kind of setting the scene. Now, on the actual night, the event and the card was insane. It was just like non-stop action. You had, Figueiredo getting it done pretty convincingly over Garbrandt pretty early on. You had Diego Lopez with a wild knockout. You had Rakic and Yuri go back and forth in this absolutely insane battle where, Yuri looked gone for all money, basically no legs left, but all of a sudden he pulls out that samurai savagery and he finds a win late. That was mental. And then it was just like, just every single fight just had something going on. And then you had Sarukian versus Oliveira. That could have gone either way. Sarukian escapes the arm and head choke, or head and arm choke in the first round, which looked tight as all hell. Eyes were bulging and shit. But that motherfucker just finds a way to escape it somehow. Willed himself out of it. People are kind of referring to it as like the Volk versus T-City moment. And, I think they're obviously pretty similar. I've never been in either of those moments because I'm not a jiu-jitsu guy at all. They both look kind of similar. The only thing I would say is because you had a bit more of a front-on view of Sarukian's face, you could see how much pressure was being applied. And you could also see, and this is what I saw. I saw in that moment, Charles has got him. This is tight. But Sarukian, I could see in his face, it was like, choke me to death or I escape. They were the only two options. He was not going to tap. And I'm not in that grappling jiu-jitsu world, so I don't know the technicalities of it, but that's what I saw. On his face, I saw, you're either going to choke me to death or I'm going to die. Oh, sorry. You're either going to choke me to death or I'm going to escape. I'm never tapping into this shit. And guess what? He doesn't tap. He escapes. He ends up winning the fight. Crazy, crazy stuff. And then we get to the BMF belt. So the hype was just insane in the whole building. It was just building and building and building. And we got to that moment that we're expecting to be the number one moment of the night. And boy, did it deliver. So right from the start in round one, I think everyone, we were expecting a back and forward fight. Like, we're expecting a war. We're expecting these guys to stand and bang. No one's taking anyone down. There's not going to be no grappling. Stand and bang. Whoever comes out on top comes out on top, and that's it. You get that belt. You get that strap. We're expecting it to be that, and that's what we got. And what we saw pretty early on is that Holloway not only was answering all the critics, but he was excelling. He looked strong. He looked slick. Straight away in that first round, he was keeping range. He was avoiding all the power shots from Gaethje. He was eating some leg kicks, which end up playing a pretty pivotal role in the fight. But he looked faster. He's throwing more combos, and showing off those hands that he's been made infamous for in the UFC, claiming to be the best boxer in the UFC. And with what he showed the other night, like, who can kind of doubt that? And then, to put a fine point on what was an amazing first round, he goes and hits that spinning back kick on Gaethje, who's kind of like stands in the spot, as Holloway alludes to in the post-fight press conference, hits him in the nose and basically shatters his nose, bleeding, pissing out blood, and Gaethje now has to fight the next 4 rounds with a very, very, very busted nose. So it was a crazy way to end the first round. And at the end of the first round, I think everyone was like, oh, okay, all right, we got to fight. It wasn't wild. It wasn't super wild to begin, but it was like, oh, okay. And I think both of these guys knew, like, we got 5 rounds in here, baby. We're going to bang it out. Bang it out. And yeah, so they started building into it, right? And then as the rounds go by, Holloway, I think, starts to pull away. He starts to pull away. He starts to show a bit of dominance. He starts to show some slick boxing, some slick movement, circling to the outside of Gaethje, avoiding the power shots, eating the leg kicks every now and then, but getting his own shots off and just doing the more damage. You can see Gaethje's face starting to get beat up a little bit. He's going to the body a lot. He's just got a more variety in strikes and levels, and I just think he's finding a bit more success and really starting to pull away. So when it gets to the final round, in my opinion, I haven't looked at the stats yet, but in my opinion and in the opinion of majority of people, Holloway is probably up 4-0, okay? He is cruising in a BMF fight. He's cruising to victory. He's showing his class. Yes, he's sustained a lot of damage to that lead leg, but he's showing his class. He's walking it off, and he looks like he's about to just win this fight, okay? It gets down to the last, I think, 15 seconds. Now, there is a little melee. Max Holloway points to the middle of the cage. He goes, meet me over there. They end up in the middle of the cage, and this is with 10 seconds to go. This is a footage that the majority of people have seen. With 10 seconds to go, he literally points to the center of the octagon, and he goes, you and me right now, let's dance. And the two men start swinging wildly, like fucking windmills, like branches in a hurricane. They are just swinging around, and they're just praying to find a home for those fists. And I think Holloway kind of mentions it in the post-fight presser. I can't say that sentence. Post-fight press conference. Post-fight press conference. Post-fight press conference. Fuck, that's a hard shit to say. Anyway, he says in the post-fight presser, I'm going to say that from now on. Post-fight presser sounds cool. Got a little twang to it. Post-fight presser. He says in the post-fight presser that he felt like he was up, and he wanted to give Gaethje that moment to potentially steal the victory, because that's what a bad MFer does. And he did. He offered it to Gaethje. Gaethje goes, all right, let's do this, daddy. And they stand and they bang. And then, the shots are glancing off elbows and, just barely missing left, right, and center. And then all of a sudden, Holloway, beautiful combination. Rip to the body, right hand over the top, clips Justin perfectly, slumps him, folds him in half with 1 second to go. He runs around the octagon like a madman, like the most energetic human I've ever seen, and we are all left absolutely shocked. Like no one can believe. Yeah. Oh man, I'm still kind of shocked. I just adrenaline dumped so hard in that motherfucker that I'm still 3 days later, I got nothing left. I'm like, where's my will to live? Like, I just got nothing left. So yeah, slumps him, brutal KO, brutal. That shit was insane. The timing of the rip, 1 second to go. Like, you kidding me? In this crazy moment when he had everything on the line, when he basically could have cruised to victory, he offers the center of the octagon to Justin Gaethje, and he goes, let's do it. You and me, homie. Let's share this together. And they shared that moment. And you know what? This moment will I think a lot of people will remember this moment as the moment that Holloway KO'd Gaethje with a brutal 1 second to go knockout, overhand right. But I never want people to forget Justin Gaethje, and I don't think they will, but I'm saying Justin Gaethje had to stand in the middle of that octagon with him and prove what kind of bad MFer he is. We all kind of knew that, but to see him, get in there and just like absolutely throw caution to the wind and go, do you know what? One of us is walking out of here. Let's do it. It was just perfect. It was chaotic. It was poetic. It was beautiful. It was the most insane sporting moment that I've ever seen by a long way. Not even close. Not even close. Because here's the thing. In any other beautiful sporting moment, you think of any of the craziest things you've ever seen in sport, right? For me, Nathan Cleary dismantling the Broncos with 10, 15 minutes ago in last year's Rugby League Grand Final. Crazy. One man just stood up and totally dominated. You think about Usain Bolt at the Olympics, I think it was 2008, 2012. Think about Kathy Freeman, right? The 400 meters. Think about who's that guy? Stephen Bradbury, right? The skating, right? Ben Stokes against the Australians in the Ashes test 4 or 5 years ago, dismantling the bowling attack and basically single-handedly winning the test with only one batsman to spare. All insane moments, right? Insane, crazy. Live on in sporting folklore for the rest of the time. The difference is, this is the difference, okay? In this moment with Holloway and Gaethje, they engaged in a physical fight, in a brutal sport that can literally change the physical nature of their bodies in a second. And I feel that the KO, that brutal KO absolutely slumped him. That's crazy shit that no one ever wants to have happen to them or see happen to someone they love. That crazy KO could potentially, probably, I'm not going to say will, but could potentially change the trajectory of Justin Gaethje's future health and his career. Like, no one wants to say that because that is a brutal truth. But for them two guys to stand in that moment, take that risk, take that all on their shoulders and go, let's do it anyway. Let's make it happen for the sport, for the BMF belt, for ourselves, for our families, for our respect, for our, stance, for our kind of standing as a potential Hall of Famers. Let's stand here and put it all on the line in this moment. And for both of them to stand there and go, do you know what? Yeah, all right, fuck it, let's go. Mental, something that will, live rent-free in my brain for the rest of my life. I did think about some other, old shit moments that I've seen, especially in UFC, and the other one that kind of like stands out as like the, absolutely mayhem and crazy would have been the Khabib versus Conor fight, and how Khabib jumps out of the ring and the octagon and then, someone jumps in and starts bashing Conor, and just this crazy moment, right? But the thing about that is it is a holy shit moment, but it's more holy shit because of what happened after the fight. Not in the fight, not in the sport, not in the arena, not when two men were going at it and then they had all eyes on them. That Khabib versus Conor moment was after it broke down the fourth wall. It was like this crazy, criminal-esque kind of brain explosion. And it was a holy shit moment, but for so many other reasons. The actual sporting event of the two guys being in the octagon, for me, clearly belongs to Holloway and Gaethje, and that insane knockout at UFC 300. Anyway, crazy fight, crazy card. Loved watching it, loved being a part of it, loved the build-up, loved the post-fight stuff, loved every single element of this crazy card from start to finish. Massive stories, massive storylines, massive moments, and I just love this shit. I love this sport. I love martial arts. I love, watching it, studying it, and I see it as inspirational, and I see it as beautiful, and I know it's a pretty weird thing to see as those things. But the way I think about it is this: UFC, fighting, martial arts. There's a lot of parallels. There's a lot of intersection between that and life. In life, you got to overcome adversity. You got to stand on your shit sometimes. You got to stand up for yourself. You got to fight for what you believe in. You got to fight for your family. You got to fight for your culture. You got to overcome adversity. I think I said that already. You got to be disciplined. You got to be resilient. And the fight game is exactly that. UFC is exactly that. That moment between Holloway and Gaethje is exactly that. That is all of those things combined into one brutal knockout that no one will ever forget. Anyway, if you enjoy this podcast, let me know below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm curious to know what some of your favorite moments were. I know there's a lot of brilliant, beautiful moments that happen. The woman's fight at the end there, Zhao Nan versus Zhang Weili and then Hill getting knocked out by Pereira there. Both of those moments are crazy. That woman's fight was an absolute battle. Zhang getting choked out at the end of the first round there, and then Pereira with the stay away from me, Herb. I'm about to knock this motherfucker out kind of moment. Crazy. Everything was crazy. It's crazy. I'm interested to know what are your 2 or 3 top moments out of that UFC 300, and also I'm curious as to what everyone thinks is going to happen with both Gaethje and Holloway going forward. Does Gaethje have to go fight Charles? Does he kind of fight the loser of Islam Poirier? Does he go straight for a shot at the winner of Islam Poirier? What's going to happen with Holloway? Because both of these guys took humongous risk going into this fight, but they put it all on the line for the BMF belt, for their sport, for their families, for their culture, and what they believe in as warriors, as gladiators, as elite sports people. Insane shit. Hope you all enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you next week on the Sav Show. Let's go.